So with DHCP, the Dynamic Host Control Protocol, we actually get a lease of an IP address. And if you've set this up before, it's pretty caveman-y. You know, it's pretty easy. You enable it, and it just kind of works, right? Well, the alternative to this is to set up static addressing, which is going to be an administrative nightmare for you. So a lot of times we just click the button, say automatic, and then booyah, our appliances will go out and do it. So a new device on our network would do a DHCP discover or broadcast message. DHCP discover or broadcast. And by doing that out onto the network, then the server or DHCP licensing entity on there, it doesn't have to be a server, it could be a router. A lot of times in a Microsoft environment, you'll set up DHCP to be on the domain controller. So that's why I say it doesn't necessarily have to be a server. It could be a wireless or a wired switch or hub or router. But essentially what they do is they send back an offer of a lease, and then it's essentially going to complete the three-way handshake here. It's a SYN, and then a SYN-ACK, and then an ACK saying that, hey, I acknowledge it. That's going to be my IP address. Usually it's going to be for 30 days, usually, right? So if you turn off your machine, you reboot your machine, it'll hit up, it'll do a DHCP request back out there, and the server just intelligently inside of its table that manages all the different IP addresses, it'll come back and say, hey, we already got you down for this IP. Your lease has not expired. And so that is your IP still. Have fun with it. All right, so we know that your MAC address is registered to this IP address, and it has this much time left on the lease that the DHCP offers. Okay? So for purposes of your exam, one thing that you may see is a couple of these DHCP messages that are sent across the board. And specifically, the one of interest is the top one. Now, with some of these other things that I've told you that you need to go through and take a good look at, like wireless, like the different wireless standards, the different ports, I've given you specifics. Usually the one that we see on your exam is going to be the initial one, and that's going to be the DHCP discover. Very, very rarely, if at all, do we ever see any of these others on there. I'm just letting you know the DHCP discover is typically the one that we'll see on your exam whenever we're talking about going out and getting the information for the DHCP request. So there is a type of attack that we see called a DHCP starvation attack. And this DHCP starvation attack is much like a lot of the things that we've seen in the past, like a SYN flood attack. We talked about that the other day. And if you recall, I said to one of you that let's try to do a SYN flood. Well, if we exploit the three-way handshake and we say SYN, you say ACK, I say SYN, you say ACK, and I keep saying SYN, 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 SYN. Well, with this DHCP starvation attack, it's very similar to that, in that we keep sending the broadcast request out saying, hey, hook me up with an IP address. Hook me up with an IP address. Hook me up with that. And over time, as we just keep sending these DHCP requests out, the buffer becomes overloaded, and there's stagnant requests that are out there that have not actually formally been married up with an IP reservation. And so the buffer becomes full. And because of that buffer becomes full, now there's no more DHCP offers that are available, and we've starved the DHCP leasing that is available on the line. Okay, so this is one that you will see on your exam, and I recommend that you take a little bit of time to, if you don't understand it, you can go back, watch this video, or ask me questions on the break. But usually this is one that we see on the exam.